Yo homies, welcome to my expert season 6 review of Fortnite. We're going to be talking about some of the negatives, some of the positives, some of the transitions, what happened on day 1, and a bit of season 5 as well to offer a bit of comparison. Now, my credibilities in terms of a Fortnite player and my ability to give this review are that in season 5 I had over 12,000 kills, 10,000 kills in solos alone, over 350 wins, and I'm currently situated as the number 1 in the UK, number 2 in EU, and 3 in the world for solo kills in season 6. So that's 2,800 solo kills already, and over 50 wins. I think it's 56. I think is the number. So without further ado, we're just gonna get stuck in. So in terms of the map changes coming into season 6, we saw Wailing Woods cottages, an underground bunker, which was pretty cool. I mean, that bunker had been there since I think it was season 3. So that was pretty exciting to see. Got the Haunted Mansion, which in my opinion is kind of rubbish. Bearing in mind it's not really well situated. I guess it offers a bit more loot towards the north of the map, but ultimately it's so high up. There are 2 rifts there, but if you don't get those 2 rifts, you're kind of like stuck in Haunted Hills area. And the crops at Fatal Fields, which I think they're a really good idea. They offer a bit more of a sort of stealthy element that we haven't really seen in Fortnite before. And I mean, there were a number of very other minor changes, but we're not going to delve into those. So when Season 5 dropped, we saw Lazy Links, Tomato Temple, Paradise Palms, and Viking Village on day 1. And these were all new exciting areas that had just come into the game. I mean, there is only one map, so that was super exciting to see all of those sort of things. I mean, I personally love all of those new map places. I've been landing at them a lot in Season 5. But when you sort of look at the map that we have in Season 6, I mean, we did have some minor changes that we've mentioned, but you've still got Flush Factory, you've still got Lucky Landing, you've still got Lonely Lodge, and you've still got Snobby Shores, and these are places that the only type of people that go there are people that are really concentrated on winning and getting a lot of loot, because they're really not like hot drops. So, in essence, they kind of need to do something with those sort of areas, in my opinion. So, we didn't see any new weapons either. I mean, as of this video, there is going to be a new rocket launcher that sort of fires 4 rockets at the same time. I think that's going to be cool. It's going to be interesting to see how it's sort of used. I mean, it's going to be really powerful, but we haven't seen any new weapons yet. Whereas in Season 5, we saw the P90, the compact SMG, the heavy sniper. All sorts of different weapons were introduced over the course of the season. So maybe that's not a negative yet, but we have to keep an eye on it. Shotguns. Now, this is a big issue for a lot of people. They're still broken, in my opinion. I mean, if you can do a single unit of damage, so you're talking 6, 7, 8, 9 damage to someone with a shotgun if you hit them in kind of like an awkward place. But no matter what, if you hit someone with a silenced pistol, you're doing 26 damage no matter where. Or a common pistol, you're doing something between 10 and 20 damage, which is ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, shotguns are supposed to be lethal, and I'm not a big fan of bringing double pump back. Ultimately, because that was sort of so powerful, and if somebody could switch between them with perfect sort of accuracy and precision, then they were going to beat you in the fight. So ultimately, it's not about bringing double pump back, it's about making the shotguns in the game more reliable in terms of their initial damage. I think that is a massive, massive issue. It's one of my biggest frustrations, I can tell you that for sure. So bounce pads were removed coming into Season 6 now. This might not seem like the biggest issue, but for me personally, someone that likes to get in build fights, likes to build high, likes to see other people kind of like take each other on and see what you've got in terms of building, because ultimately that's what the game is about. It's about building, and it's about having these amazing fights that might take you 10, 15 stories up in the sky as one person tries to get the high ground on the other and tries to get that good shotgun shot and whatnot. So taking bounce pads out it's really difficult. If you're having a huge build fight, you can get stuck at the top of the map. Now, if somebody shoots you, I know I've had this sort of experience in solos in particular, where I've had an amazing build fight with somebody, and somebody else has just started shooting my build down once I've won, or both me and the guy are still fighting, and you can't get down unless you have a launch pad. And that, or you jump off and use a grappler at the last minute. But these are all so risky, whereas before it's like, okay, we're going to have to reset this fight. Let me just put a flat mat down, and I'll put a bounce pad down, and boom. sorted. So I understand why they took bounce pads out, because a lot of the better players or a lot of normal people in the game were starting to use them in really creative ways and starting to launch on people and take them by surprise in essence. And Fortnite is one of these games where it's always going to be based around the new player and welcoming that sort of like new player to the game in terms of, okay, they can kill the best players if they hold R2 or whatever, and using a bounce pad could really disable that sort of factor and gave people like, I don't know, Ninja and these types of big YouTubers huge opportunities to make clips and ridicule other people. So I kind of understand, but at the same time there needs to be some sort of replacement in terms of being able to get down from build fights, because at the moment they're just not worth having, and a lot of people like to see build fights, especially if you're a streamer, and to just get knocked down it's really disappointing. Miniguns. So miniguns are one of these weapons that they've been in the game a long time. They don't really ever get overly used, but there needs to be something done to especially in terms of the ammo capacity, because towards the end of a game, you might have someone who's okay at the game, they might be really good at the game, but they might have a gold minigun and 999 mini bullets, and there is literally nothing you can do. There's so little you can do in that situation, because since they got rid of the health on wooden mats in particular, I mean, metal is really hard to come by unless you sort of focus on mining, but most of the time you're going to be building with wood, somebody's going to be shooting you with a minigun, and that gives you so little time to react in terms of, okay, building to the side and maybe trying to get a shot off, or giving yourself some breathing room, especially when you consider how uneven the floor is in terms of building. So you might build a wall and it's covered 3/4 by the ground underneath. So if you get caught in one of these situations where you're having to build 2 walls in front of yourself, one's covering literally your legs and the other's covering the rest of your body, that person with the minigun is going to hit you up and down. And it's so hard to get out of that situation. Really difficult. So I don't know if they need to cap the amount of minigun bullets that you can have, maybe cap the light ammo, or just increase the sort of like the spread of the minigun. But in my opinion, it's really, really powerful and really lethal, especially in solos. I mean, I've been doing solo squads so far this season, and I often find that the Tommy gun in Season 5 was a real problem, because 4 people could just spray you down and there was no sort of way to get around that. Now one person will carry the minigun and spray you down and hold you in a position, and their mates will just flank you. So I feel like that's something that needs to be tackled. The Season 6 Battle Pass for me has been really disappointing. I think the unlockable emotes are rubbish. Really rubbish. I don't understand the emoticons that you can throw in the air when you're down. And ultimately, I don't think many people really care about their sort of like their emblem and whatnot. I feel like there's so much more to be done with that. We'll get onto the positives of the Battle Pass later. I think some of the skins aren't great, but for the most part, I think the skins are alright. So a lot of Season 5 felt like a build-up to Season 6, right? So you're talking the zero gravity zones. You're talking nothing really going on apart from what happened at the start, and it was all building up, like the Loot Lake event. It was all building up to, oh, what's going to happen in Season 6? And we got the floating island, which was awesome. We'll get into that later. But it's been kind of anticlimactic when you kind of think, alright, so if an entire season was a build-up to Season 6, and we haven't really seen anything yet, I know the event is ongoing in terms of the floating island going to the corrupted zones and whatnot, but we're still kind of waiting for something to shock us and change and whatever, because we're expecting quite a high standard. Fortnite's been an amazing game in terms of setting the high standard in terms of creativity, so let's see what they bring there. Now, alongside removing the bouncers in terms of mobility, they nerfed the grappler, which in my opinion was a good idea, from 15 grapples to 10, but there are now less rifts in the game, especially with the disappearance of the tiki heads. Now, that means mobility is much less than before. Like it's harder to get around the map with as much speed as previously, and I was one of the top complainers about, okay, there's too much mobility, the entire lobby is killing each other way too quickly. But now, in my opinion, it's gone in the other way a little bit, and there perhaps isn't as much mobility. They took out too much at once. Okay, so onto the positives. In my opinion, the zero gravity zone was so annoying. It kind of contrasted everything that Fortnite was about, which is kind of building forts, shooting people, and whatnot. In zero gravity zones, the amount of times I would kill people or get killed stuck in midair was so frustrating, and the fact that there were 7 of these spread across the map by the end of it, and I think we had to deal with it for over a month in terms of the first Zero Gravity Zone to the start of Season 6. It was a long time to be dealing with them. And I guess with the bounce pads in conjunction, it was a good idea, like being able to zoom across the map and whatnot, but I'm so glad they're gone. I think the Dire skin and Calamity skins look awesome. I see loads of people wearing those around at different stages. I even think, although I'm not a massive fan of the teal color Calamity that's just been sort of achieved by most of the player base now that 2 weeks of challenges have been released, I really like what they do in terms of like, okay, so you start off with this skin that looks cool, and the more you progress through the season, the better the skin looks. And I think that those two skins are just so cool. They're so cool. The new animal backblings, you can see that in this video I'm wearing the dragon, I forget his name, but they're really cool additions as well. I mean, the chameleon changing color depending on the weapon rarity that you pick up, the dog and the dragon reacting to when you kill people, open loot drops, those sorts of things, and when you get a victory royale. They're really nice minor additions, and I think, bearing in mind that the target audience is a younger audience for Fortnite, I feel as though a lot of the older audience are getting a lot of enjoyment out of it too, and I can't wait to see what comes in the item shop in terms of more pets and the likes. So the floating island moving around, I think that is a really cool addition. It's something completely different. You can't fault Epic for not trying to get creative. I don't think it's something we've ever really seen before in any other sort of battle royale game, so I think that's a really interesting concept, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when the sort of like the Corrupted Zone event finally finishes. Now, the one complaint I have about the floating island is I try and go for 20 bombs a lot, and I try and get lots of kills on these floating islands, and I tend to find that that's almost impossible because the player base has adapted a style which in essence is I'm gonna fly around the floating island until I see someone who's vulnerable and then land on them and kill them. I mean, it's an interesting tactic for sure, but it's not something that I ever try and go for, and if I'm trying to get loads of kills and someone jumps on me, naturally I'm going to find that frustrating, but honestly, that's just me. That's just my personal complaint. I feel like people can do what they want, and I feel like that's a really cool new addition, but the longer the island's been out for, the less attraction it sort of gets, as people sort of be like, alright, I've died loads of times flying around the island, it's not really working or whatever. Shadow crystals. They seem really powerful. I mean, when they first came out, the idea that, oh my god, you can be invisible, that is so powerful. That was a really, like, sort of shock. Like, everybody's like, oh my god. But now, I'm sort of thinking, well, you can actually see the people who are invisible unless they're standing directly still. Even if you're stood still, you can still get seen. So they're not as powerful as everybody sort of thinks. I think that they're a really good idea in terms of maybe escaping a fight or backing out without having to draw too much attention to yourself, and giving you a second chance at sort of like getting out of there in essence. But I think, like, in terms of adding the mobility to the shadow crystals, you can still get trapped by them, so I don't think they're overpowered whatsoever. Now, Fortnite removed the LMG, and I think that's a really good move in getting rid of the spam meta. I mean, there was a point where you could have an LMG, a Tommy gun, and a P90, and you wouldn't have to reload for 190 bullets. That's insane. And if you had, that's not including a minigun. So to have removed that, I feel like that was a really good move in the right direction. The grappler and double barrel shotgun nerf. So, as we've mentioned already, the grappler got nerfed from 15 grapples to 10. I feel like that was an important move, and the double barrel shotgun's damage got nerfed, and if you're not hitting someone right at close range, you're not going to be doing damage like a pump or a heavy, and I feel like that was a really good move by Fortnite. I felt like a lot of people felt as though they were dying too quickly, and I feel like that was kind of, it's really frustrating. If you've, depending on what player you are, you could have spent the whole game looting and then just been killed by someone with a grappler or a double barrel, or you could have had a really good game and you're close to the end and somebody just comes out of nowhere, double barrels you, you were on 200 health and you're dead. But that sort of feeds into one of my other side complaints about healing and whatnot. I think in the game at the moment, it is so easy to die. Like, it is just so easy to die. If you get in one fight in solos, for example, you can bandage yourself to 75 health, and even if you've got minis, you can take that to 125. You will still get one-shotted by the heavy sniper that I'm using now in this video, or a trap. And that's just, I feel like it's such a conscious, like, you've got to be so aware of how many shields you're carrying and your heals. And honestly, the game doesn't encourage you to get in fights in that sort of sense, because someone who's looted up properly could just go and whack you. So I don't know what they could do in terms of bringing more heals, maybe even increasing the bandages to 80 health. That would be better. But at the moment, I feel as though the trap and the Barrett, aka the heavy sniper, need to have something done to them, because they are so powerful at the moment. Okay, so ice mats. Ice mats were introduced, and I don't think the community has quite worked out what to do with them, apart from sort of, okay, so if I use them and kind of go in a downwards motion, I'll move faster, and that might help mobility in terms of getting out of the circle or the storm, which is cool. Or you have quite a lot of YouTubers spending hours trying to get really good clips of a quick scope with them. I think they're cool, but if you asked me, alright, would you rather have ice mats or bouncers? I would pick bouncers 100% of the time. So it'll be interesting to see how the community adopts ice mats in over the course of the season, and what they actually get used for in terms of their end purpose. But we'll see. We'll see. I really like the Halloween decor. I think sort of the spooky stuff outside the houses, that's really cool. And in particular, there was this one place in Retail Row on the blacktop side that only ever had a couple, like a counter. It was almost like a shopping process in works in between like the grocery store and the sort of bar at the end and the blacktops. That's now like a Halloween shop, and I think that's really cool. They managed to finally do something with that place. So they got rid of the bouncy loot lake. I mean, I wish we'd had the bouncy loot lake for longer, because when that first came out, that was so cool, so wicked. Everybody's just spawning there, jumping around, trying to hit no scopes, just having a massive laugh with it. And we only got it for maybe a week, 2 weeks. I'm kind of gutted that it went, but this feeds into the overall theme that mobility is much harder in the game now. Like, no bounce pads, and you can't like fly through the corrupted zero gravity zones with the bounce pads. They've got rid of a lot of the rifts from the tiki heads. They've got rid of the bouncy loot lake. I mean, rift to goes are still a thing. I mean, and the ice mats are the only way to compensate, but I don't think the mobility is there that everybody was really enjoying. Being able to go around the map and not get hit by the storm is ultimately something that I really personally enjoyed. I feel like it's so frustrating when you die to the storm, when there are ways to mobilely get around the map quicker and prevent that from happening. So now that we're kind of moving on to the end of the review and the end of the clip, I'm going to go over a couple of my pet peeves that sort of get me vexed when playing the game. So, fake defaults. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have never bought the Battle Pass, and that's a sort of badge of honor. Congratulations, you've never spent any money on this game. A lot of people have spent over £100 or over $100, and that's great. But not everybody has to be Tfue, and it's got to the point now where if I see a default, I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to try my hardest, because 9 times out of 10, that person is actually really good, and they're trying to psychologically fool you into thinking they're a noob. And I sort of look at that person and I'm like, I know you're not a novice. I know that you've most likely spent quite a lot of money on skins, so why don't you wear them? I mean, that's just me. Only because whenever I buy skins, I wear them, and if that makes me a target, so be it. I would rather people come and approach me and get in fights. It's a bit like, don't wear defaults if you've spent money. It's a waste of your money, your parents' money. You might as well have not bought the skin in the first place. Weapon skins. I really hope they're coming soon. Some people have sort of said that they're doing the data mining of the patch releases and whatnot, that weapon skins are going to come. I'm really looking forward to that when it does. So fingers crossed that's going to be something coming in the future. Please fix the shotguns. No single digit damage. Not even if you hit them in the arm, there should be a minimum of sort of 25. I don't feel like that's too much to ask for, especially considering the amount of time it takes to shoot a shotgun and then repump it, for example. I mean, the tack is one thing, but having a gold heavy shotgun do single digit damage is just ridiculous. And something that I've noticed in Season 5 going into Season 6, the average player is a lot better than what they used to be. And that's really exciting, because sort of shows that Fortnite isn't dying. People are coming back. They're getting better. I mean, the ability to hold R2 is great, but a lot more people are getting a lot better. And I feel like that's really exciting for the game. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. My name is Boggy18, aka Mr. Bogle69 on Twitch. If you want to join me and watch me live stream this game, play at a high level, enjoy some really good chats, we've got a really good community going on over there. I'll link everything in the description, but I hope you enjoyed this review and I'll see you later. Take it easy.